All right, we are top of the hour here. Gayle, you online?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Just waiting for this camera to buffer. There we go.
How'd the holidays treat you?
Listen, for me, it was good. I took my wife's Australian, so we went down to Australia and hung out
Oh,
with her
nice.
family for Christmas, which is their summertime. So it was flip-flops and board shorts for my
Yeah,
winter holidays.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was freezing in St. Louis, Missouri. Uh, so, but all right, a couple people will probably be trickling back in, so I'm going to introduce Gayle. Gayle Anders is a Marine Corps veteran and a seasoned leader specializing in business continuity, resilience, currently managing business continuity for Netflix's global operations across all revenue streams and value chains. In addition to his corporate leadership role, Gayle is the owner of Odysseus. Did I say that right?
You did, Odysseus,
Yep.
yes.
Odysseus coaching career, where he focuses on helping veterans and federal employees successfully transition into private sector careers. Everything we are trying to do here. Through Odysseus Career Coaching, he provides services including job search strategies, resume reviews, interview preparations, industry research, sale negotiations, VA benefits guidance, and support for building or support for starting a business. So, all things we're going to talk about today and the importance of. So, please give a warm hand to Gayle Anders.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to meet everybody today.
Gayle, can you just start off with what you did in the Corps and go up to the reasons for you to get it, why you got out and transitioned out, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Brian. So, I was 9/11 baby. So basically 9/11 happened, and then 3 months later, I was in boot camp. I enlisted as a infantry Marine. My first duty station was Hawaii. Spent most of my time, thankfully, on the West Coast. I did a year out there in Quantico, but three combat deployments, five humanitarian security related deployments over the course of 20 years. Essentially, I made my way up to the rank of first sergeant. I went to Wounded Warrior Battalion for my first sergeant duties, and then when I tried to go back to the fleet, to the infantry fleet, I was told that I had to diversify my experience portfolio, and my experiences were needed with the Marine Logistics Group, which basically triggered me to submit my appendix J and started my exit from the Marine Corps. So with that 14 months, I more or less focused on trying to figure out like what do I want to do? Like how do I identify myself, outside of the Marine Corps, and like what are the things that I wanted to do? One of the things I wanted to do is, my biggest one was I wanted to minimize anything I had to do outside of the military that people have already done. And for example, is like I already have my bachelor's degree. So in that 2 years or that 14 months, I crushed it and I got my master's degree in emergency management. And then I started looking through the certifications and things like that. And I was originally going to do the transition into FEMA and just go into like double retire by the time I'm 60. Like all the other legacy people who had raised me within the Corps, what they had done. Uh, and I eventually just found out about this thing called business continuity. And then that's kind of like where I shifted my focus into pursuing a career in that.
That's awesome. So, some of the things that you do, like, and first, is it okay if I put your LinkedIn in the chat?
Absolutely.
And then anybody, if you have any questions, please raise your hands or put it in the chat, and I'll monitor that and ask it for you. Uh, So can you talk about, let's just dive right into it. Can you talk about how important it is, especially when you're getting out, into having a job search strategy? So I know a lot of people, they have a plan in their head, but when they get out to the real world, like it's their hands in the air, like what's going on here. So can you talk about how important it is to have a job search strategy?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely crucial. I was very ignorant on all the things that I know now. So, you go through the TAPS or the transition assistance thing you're supposed to do when you leave the military. And they were talking about like, I think it was like Indeed, Monster.com, LinkedIn, like county employment offices and all this other stuff. And so I was just like, how do you say, overwhelmed with all these, like, where do I post my resume? How do I know my resume is even working? Yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, for me, I found LinkedIn to be the biggest force multiplier. And what I mean by that is, Indeed, yeah, you can post your resume and one or two recruiters will reach out to you. But on LinkedIn, as many of you all know, you can target people and you can say like, hey, I want to talk to who's in charge of resilience at Google or who's in charge of resilience at Walmart or whatever your career path is. Who's the cybersecurity lead for Deloitte or name your company. And so that's what I started doing. I started cold calling everybody on LinkedIn that had business continuity or resilience in their title, did introductions, had 30-minute meetings with them, and just to better understand like what does it actually mean to do that type of work in that specific industry. I knew from personal experience that it's not enough to say I want to be in IT or I want to be cybersecurity or I want to be business continuity. Like, what industry do you want to work in? Because people always talk about the culture of a company, the culture of a team, or all the ethos and stuff like that. But the industry will drive the culture. Now, what I mean by that is if you're targeting roles within the finance sector, yeah, you're damn right. It's going to be very, very stringent. There's no more original ideas. There's no innovation. You have to do it this way because these 30,000 regulations say this is how we get through our audits and this is how it's done. And most of those people are like postal workers. They've been there for 30 years, right? So chances of them changing how they put their pants on every day is not, it's not going to be happening. So through that experience, I found the entertainment industry. And yes, we have a union workforce here. There is regulation, but there's a lot of creative control because we don't have to be in strict compliance with certain regulations. Obviously, payments and subscriber and data protection, yes, you have to do those things. But from the continuity perspective, like the program didn't exist here for 25 years. And then I came in and they basically told me to go do it. So now I have creative control. And to me, that was more important than any culture or any type of anything else that would have factored who I chose to go with.
Yeah, that's awesome and so important. Like I know when I got out, as an '05, I was just like, oh, I'll just get whatever I want. I'm an '05 in the Navy, like whatever. And that's far from the truth. Like you need a strategy and a industry per se to get into, and instead of flying by the seat of your pants. And I learned that the hard way, but thankfully, my time with Seven Eagle, I was able to adjust my rudder and get a good strategy down. Speaking of strategies, one of the key things for a strategy would be your resume. So, like, for me, my resume was my last fit rep where I just took it to the new CO and said, "Yeah, here's what I'm all about." So, how important? And we talk about resumes all the time here at Seven Eagle. How important is your resume to as part of your job search strategy?
So I think it is absolutely your critical vulnerability as any service member leaving the military and coming into the civilian workforce. And I kind of giggle because I was guilty of it myself. First Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, Alpha Company, Wounded Warrior Battalion, Gunnery Sergeant, First Battalion, First Marines, Operations Chief, blah, 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 blah. Like, that doesn't mean shit to the talent acquisition kid who just graduated college and is now reviewing your resume. They have no idea what that means. So thankfully, all of you have AI, and all of you can do what I'm about to tell you in 5 minutes, where it took me about a few months to understand and be able to articulate. Oh, operations chief in the Marine Corps that's what that means in business continuity lexicon or terms and those types of things. So translating what you've done is the biggest hurdle to get over. You got to be able to articulate it. Some of the certifications you have in the military are not widely known or understood outside of the military. So it's not that you're lying, but you might have like an IT related certification. It's a really big deal in the Space Force, but nobody had a clue what the hell that shit means at Netflix. So trying to find out like, hey, what does this actually mean outside of Space Force or Air Force or wherever you come from, and then trusting that resource or those references to say, hey, I have this where you can basically change the title, but then be able to articulate how your certification meets those same requirements or those same expectations of somebody who would have the other certification name, whatever it might be. So that would be the first thing is get rid of all the military. Listen, don't deny that you're in the military or that you were in the military. I would never ask you or to do that, but you have to be able to articulate how what you did in the military in a way that somebody can understand it. More importantly, a lot of these people or companies out here, they're using algorithms. So nobody's reading your resume. It's going through a scanner first, and it's doing a keyword match. And if your keyword match is low, you go to the bottom of the totem pole. I'll give you an example. My job, my boss's job is open, and it's been on the Netflix jobs website for 72 hours. There's over 1,000 applicants from around the world. Okay. So the chances of you just getting the job or getting the offer simply by your resume is few and far between. So to my point earlier, you start with LinkedIn, you build that network, you build that strategy, you meet people, you become a voice of your profession on that platform. You have your resume tailored so that it's a representation of what you've done, which is going to lead me into the interviews because where I see everybody, well, not everybody, a lot of people fall short. Like we've already scanned your resume, a recruiter's looked at your resume, a recruiter's already spoken to you on the phone about your resume, and you're making sure that you're going to pass the sniff test and that you're okay and you can present well and all those other good things. But now you get into the interview portion of this. The only thing you bring into that conversation in the interview is what's on your resume. That's a hard no. Absolutely not. To me, that demonstrates a true lack of experience. If all you can articulate is what's on your resume, I've already read your resume as your interviewee. I want to know more about you. So that's your opportunity because you only get 2 pages. So that's your opportunity to tell me all the things you left off on page 3 and 4 that you wish you could have included in that resume. So just don't repeat the same stories you've already told. Um, which stories are better with quantifiable data? 30% increase in productivity doesn't mean shit. Hey, of 1,000x, I increased our readiness by 30%. Okay, I know you affected 300 of those things. And to me, that's more meaningful than just I improved, I did 10% better on my, whatever it was. So using metrics, there's so much resources and references out there you can look at and say, how does, uh, um, you have these things called objectives and key results, and then you have key performance indicators, two very different things. But if you're looking for ways to quantify things you've done in the military to prepare you for that for your resume for whatever you're applying for, just go on there like, hey, as the Chief Information Security Officer for Netflix, ask AI, what should be my OKRs? And it'll tell you, hey, your key results, your objectives as a CISO for an entertainment company should be this. Your key results to define your success should be this. Okay, now how do I get that into my resume to say, like, hey, this is what I did in the military. I'm pursuing a career in cybersecurity. So now I'm speaking the language, I'm advocating and I'm highlighting metrics that are relatable and understandable by anybody who might be reading them.
Awesome. Uh, can you talk to us about, and then your experience, the importance of interview preparation? I know me and a lot of people, on the Zoom here, bottom line upfront people. You know what? I got an interview with Gayle. It's just me talking to him about whatever. I'm just going in cold, and that can lead to a disastrous experience. You know, talking from my own experience. So, can you tell us the importance of interview prep, and maybe give us your experience going through it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, I'm gonna highlight AI again because everything I'm about to tell you was a multi-month journey for me. For all of you, to probably like a 15-minute prep if you're depending on how what your cognitive ability is. Uh, so that I'll tell you I like to focus on publicly traded companies. And the reason why I like publicly traded companies is because of all the public disclosures they have to provide to the SEC and to different agencies within the United States. So I can take that 10K, which is their annual and quarterly reports. I can take an 8K, which is a material update to their business structure, with like mergers and acquisitions or whatever. I can take all these things and I can put it into Gemini or ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm currently applying for a cybersecurity role with this company. Here's the last 3 years of their 10Ks and their 8Ks. Please help me understand, like, what are the challenges, what are the headwinds and tailwinds this company is currently facing, and what would I, how could I, then you can throw your resume in there and you can say, like, how could I support their goals for their 2030 vision or whatever that might be. And it's going to spit all this stuff out to you. And it's going to be right there on a silver platter. And now all you got to do is just go in there and not act like a robot and find a way to bring that stuff up into a conversation as you're going through that interview prep. It's important to understand how the business makes its money. Okay. Yeah, cool. You're a project manager and you're applying for a project management role in the HR arm. HR does not make money. So if you go in there and you're talking about how you're going to increase revenue and blah, 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 like you're full of shit, you're off, you're like canceled. Like you're not even going to round two. Okay. You have to understand. Yes, this is a project management role, but there's project management professionals in all arms of the business, and you've got to be able to speak to that specific arm of the business as it relates to what their priorities are and what their challenges are, whatever the context may be. So understand the business. How do they make their money? Are they US based? Are they global? Obviously those things, those do matter because there's increased regulations and different things you have to factor in and consider. Understanding the team you're working for or you're trying to join. And this is where LinkedIn comes into a pivotal role or another opportunity here. So what I would do is I would find if I'm applying for business continuity roles, I find everybody at that business because everybody loves talking about themselves and bragging about themselves on LinkedIn. Everybody who's got continuity that works at that company. Okay, well, of the 20 members of this team, 12 of them have been there for less than a year. So we're growing very quickly. So maybe one of the questions I would ask when it becomes my turn to ask questions in an interview would be, hey, based on this rapid growth your team is experiencing, do you anticipate that growth lasting for the next 36 months? Or what is causing that rapid growth and that investment? Because when you're increasing headcount, that's a significant amount of investment that some key leader above that your potential manager has made. So those are the questions you would bring into the interview that would land very well. Um, Another one would be, hey, what are your current challenges, or like, how can I help you accomplish one of your OKRs within the next 90 days, or something to that effect. But for personal stories, I was applying for a GS 13 job for FEMA. It was for mitigation plans person. Like I guess I was just gonna write plans and like apply for grants for mitigations for different things. And the person asked me like, "Hey, what experience do you have in writing plans and applying for grants?" And I said, "I don't have any experience in applying for grants." He said, "What makes you qualified for this role then?" I said, "Well, listen, I just did 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I've never been certified or qualified for anything that I did. I was just put in a position. I found a way to win and to define success, and I always made sure that I stayed within my left and right lateral limits and my operating costs and budget." Boom, got the job offer for the GS position at FEMA. Problem was, it was for like $90,000 in Oakland. I can't live on a family of four in Oakland with 90,000, so decline. Um, there was another one with Jet Propulsion Labs, right? They're out here in Pasadena, California. They build rockets since like World War II. And I bombed this interview because the lady asked me, "What do you know about JPL?" And I just did a quick Google search before I went into the interview. And I don't even remember what I said, but I said some silly ass shit that had nothing to do with JPL. The recruiter corrected me on the phone, and that was basically the end of the conversation. I didn't understand the business. There was another one with New York Times as the director for information security, and the dude asked me. So to Brian's point, I did all this research about the New York Times. Everything I just told you, I did, and I was well prepared for this one because there was a lot of money on the table. Not one question was about information security. The questions were about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as a jarhead, I had no idea how to answer those questions, so I answered them as a heathen. I will never repeat my answers in a public setting, but what I will tell you is that as I was giving those answers, I knew I was not landing very well. So I immediately got off the phone. I knew there was never going to go anything from that. I found some person on LinkedIn that was like the VP of HR. And I said, "Hey, you, this is me. I'm out here answering these questions, and I'd like to just have a conversation of how you would define diversity, equity, and inclusion." And what that lady shared with me told me that I was an absolute idiot. And I knew well that I was never going to get that call back. But the fact that I got the interview or the screening with the recruiter told me my resume was tight and I was able to articulate through because we had corresponded via email prior to the actual phone screening that I was able to articulate, communicate effectively. So if you're not getting any signal, then that's something wrong with you, something wrong with your resume. If you're getting signal but you're not getting the next step, like wherever you're falling short, that tells you like what you need to focus on or work on to get to the next step, which is eventually that um offer letter, if you will.
Yeah, that's I did an interview once with somebody, and she was doing pretty good. And the question was like, hey, in the next 5 years, the Naval Expeditionary Force, we're leaning towards this way, da 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 da. Where do you see yourself, here at said command in the next 5 years, or whatever it was? And she's like, yeah, I have no idea what you guys do here. And I'm like, yeah, you're trying to fake it. Okay, all right, I got you. So she didn't end up getting the job, but you know,
Yeah,
there were just better candidates. And that wasn't just that question, but it was one of those ones where it's like, man, maybe you should have done a little homework here. So,
yeah.
anyone have any questions so far? Go ahead and raise your hand, or I'm just going to keep. We're going to keep trucking through here. You kind of already talked about it, like uh, industry research and the importance of that. Like you were, going emergency management and all that, fun security stuff that anyone in the security forces in the Zoom are all about. But can you tell us a little bit more about the importance of industry research and how to do it? But before you do that, I want to go to Derry up there, another Marine. Go ahead, Derry.
Good morning, sir. My question was about the industry research, like how in depth were the questionings about the industry research? Like the last thing you said was it wasn't even about the job description that you applied for. They were more so asking about like what do you know about the industry? How deep does that go?
No, Darius, so that's on me. Maybe I may have misspoke. The question was not about the industry. The questions were all leadership focused. And that the person at the New York Times did not care about my ability because as a director, I'm not doing the work. I'm managing people. So I have to be an expert. Like if you look at the first sergeant or sergeant majors in the room, I got to be a damn good person when it comes to conflict resolution, keeping my teams in alignment, making sure we're accomplishing the task together and effectively and within budget, of course. But then also there's the things that come into the play, such as diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how, in my position, would I support those things to ensure that I had a well represented workforce, et cetera. So that wasn't industry specific. That was for that position, which when you're applying for jobs, you need to understand like people use analysts. Like I always assumed analysts or specialists were like entry level positions. Those are not all, and it's not true in every industry. So I'm gonna answer this question in twofold for Brian and Derry. When you do an industry research, one of the things you need to figure out is what is a director, what's a vice president. Like in the banking industry, when people tell me the vice president, I'm like, dude, who cares? Everybody's a vice president in the financial industry. Like you have like associate vice presidents, you have vice presidents, you have senior vice presidents, and there's multiple of these people with those same titles or those same levels in a different part of of their respective areas of the business. For all of you on the call today, it's important to understand, do you want to be an individual contributor or a people manager? And if you're applying for people management, your questions might be a little bit tactical, but they're more or less going to be more operational and management focused, such as tell me about a time. It's not going to be about tell me about a time you were challenged and you had to find a creative way to, engage with your stakeholders. No, the people manager role, it's like, hey, you got two of your employees are sleeping together and they're starting to fight in the office. What are you going to do about that? And if you just jump in there like if you're jumping to like E5 mode and like, hey, I'm gonna pull them into a room. We're gonna go back to back and figure this shit out. No, absolutely not. That's not what's gonna happen. Or I'm just gonna sit him down and I'm gonna talk to him as professionals and be like, absolutely not. You've already violated your own HR policies. Step one, I'm gonna engage with HR to figure out like how we should best do this together because HR understands the policies and they have all the tools when it comes to dealing with conflicts and different workplace related behaviors, right? So those are the questions, Derry, that you're going to have to answer. And if you try to answer everything as if you're just going to do it because you just have the bias for action and you already know what needs to be done, you're going to fall short because in corporate America, you're already out of your pay grade. You're dealing with a sensitive subject. You're dealing with employees' welfare. So you need to engage with HR who can provide you that leverage. So I know that was a really long answer to your question, Derry, but that there was not an industry related question. For industry related, obviously, what words mean what, right? So, perfect example to my point earlier. If you look at people's job descriptions, like they look at LinkedIn profiles for people who work at Netflix, you'll see things like in their previous roles, they were the chief operating officer, the chief product officer, a vice president, or they were some senior individual, and now they're here at Netflix and they're just a manager. But please understand that management position, depending on what product line it's attached to, they probably have a larger budget and more scope and responsibility as a manager than they ever did as a COO or CPO or some whatever senior position they came from. So that you have to understand like what the words mean in the job titles that you're applying for: analyst, specialist, coordinator. Um, and these are things that, a simple one-on-one conversation with somebody that works at the company to help you, they call it leveling. So if you hear the term leveling, that's what they're talking about. Are you entry level? Are you mid-level? Are you an informed captain, individual contributor? Like that, they call it leveling out here. But that's how you would find out to understand, hey, within a specific industry, what does this job title actually mean? Perfect example, when I was first coming into the entertainment industry, I originally accepted a job offer with Warner Brothers. And when I got to, I'm sorry, it was with Warner Media, which is one above Warner Brothers. When I got to, I did a orientation day at my potential future office, and they walked me through and they were explaining everything to me and all that good stuff. Hey, here's your office, here's your name plaque on the wall and all that cool. Like here's the chow hall type of stuff. But then we started talking about the actual work that was going to be done. And it was like, hey, you're going to be responsible for Warner Brothers continuity plans. You'll be responsible for CNN's continuity plans, some other subsidiaries. Essentially, I was going to be responsible for everything west of the Mississippi as it relates to Warner Media and all the subsidiaries. And I was like, hold on a second. Number one, this was an analyst position. Number two, the salary is 90,000, and I believe what you were asking for is at least 250,000, based on the fact that I'm going to be responsible for all the subsidiaries and governing their programs, etc. And they said, no, you're absolutely correct, but you've already signed your offer letter. And I said, thank you for your time, but no, thank you. And I just left because I'm not killing myself like I did in the Marine Corps again. So industry research. Um, right now, I think the biggest challenge for all of my professionals is Trump. Okay, not to get political, but because the tariffs are changing how businesses are operating. We used to have these very extensive, long-reaching supply chains around the world. All those things are coming back to center when they got to come back to the United States, and this changes like how businesses are basically like what their second and third order effects are. Like what are their contingency plans? If we lose the vendor in Mexico, where can we shift to? We can't work with that country anymore. There's sanctions. So those are the things that create unique challenges if you're dealing with a company. Walmart has a huge workforce population in China. And so Walmart cares a lot about anything that we do against China. So I share all that with you all because industry research is not as easy as, hey, just do these three things. Start with the job you're looking for in an industry, understand the industry. Hey, for me, I thought that when I joined here very shortly after my time started, hey, there was a huge union strike. So there was no productions happening in the United States. And I immediately thought like, hey, this is my moment as a business continuity person. I'm going to be up there at the executive level and I'm going to tell them how we're going to save revenue. And they already all that shit figured out. The SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, hurt themselves because they went on strike. But all we did, all the business did, and not just the Netflix, but all the business, all the entertainment companies, we're just going to go with foreign talent. So Baby Reindeer, for those of you that saw Baby Reindeer on Netflix, right? That was a hit. Bunch of no named individuals in that movie, right? But it showed that we don't need these Dwayne Johnsons, and I don't really know all the people's names, but we don't need to pay them $150 million. I can give this person $1 million with a damn good script and a little bit of operating budget, and we can create a blockbuster. So that changed the game, right? So understanding the industry is what I mean. Like it's not just like a single pane of glass. You got to look at it from different aspects and understand like what are the when I say headwinds, what are the things that are potentially going to happen that affect that industry? Tailwinds are things that are going to, hey, we're going to decrease regulations so we can grow faster, we can scale faster. Like those are the. I know that was a really long answer, Brian. Derry, I hope that answered your question, but if it did not, please let me know.
You did a good answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good stuff. You kind of just touched on it with the 90K for a $250,000 job there, but can you talk a little bit about the importance of what's near and dear to everyone's heart, especially when that guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks may not be coming, and that's the salary negotiations.
Yeah. First things first, before you even come into like if the job offering says so like when I told you about the jobs I accepted for like 80,000 and 90,000, please understand I was at a point in my life where like I did not have clarity at the end of my DD 214 and I needed clarity because I got to feed the family, right? So all that being said, as a first sergeant, 20 years in the Marine Corps, living in San Diego County, I knew that I had to make at least $110,000 a year in order to maintain the standard of living that my family was accustomed to. So for all of you on the call, whatever your rank is, whatever your experience is, I would look at your total compensation package for your service in the military today. And if you want to maintain that level of life or lifestyle, whatever, that becomes your baseline. And you should not be pursuing anything that's below that baseline. Because otherwise, that just means like the kids don't play football this season, or the wife's not doing something, or your husband's not doing something, or somebody's going to have to sacrifice something if you're going to accept lower wages based on than what you're making currently. That's number one. Number two, industry research, same thing. Hey, what does a director make? And there's things like Glassdoor and Blind. I think Blind's another one, where people talk openly about their salaries and people talk openly about the culture of the company, etc. So you can use those resources to, hey, what's a director for General Electronics make in this business area, the business domain, and the thing will tell you like how much they make, whatever. You can use that as a source. Obviously, the job description doesn't always have the salary posted in the job description. So when the salary is posted, I go for the middle, right? So if it's 100 to 150, when on the application, if it asks, I'll say 125, and I'll tell you why. What you have to understand is those pay scales are based on the leveling. So like a GS position, I'm sure many of you are familiar, like you'll have like a GS 12 step one, GS 12 step two, GS 12 step three. They're all GS 12s, but they're different tenures of their rating at that specific level, right? Civilian workforce is very much the same. They'll have their entry level, and I say that's the 90,000, and that's the lower end of the thing. But then it goes up to 150,000. So for that level, for that position, the lowest is 90,000 and the highest is 150,000. Anything over 150,000 requires a promotion. So if you say I want 145, you're basically saying I want to be promoted in like the first 3 weeks while I start this job. And that's what you have to understand. And so that pay scale is how that's connected. And if you look at Netflix, the shit's wild. It'll say like 100,000 to 900,000. And that's real because you can be an individual contributor like up to like level 9, which is like a chief law officer 5. They're Jedi's, and there's not many of them, but you can literally those salaries are real, but it's just different levels, right? So uh, long story short, you get the phone call, you make it past all that, you do all your due diligence, and they ask you like, what are your salary expectations? I always ask for this level, what is the pay band? And if they tell me the pay band is between 90,000 and 150,000, I said, okay, great. Can you tell me what your expectations are for paying me $90,000 versus paying me $150,000? Now, this is where you come into the salary negotiation. I'm going to take everything they tell me about the $90,000 individual and I'm going to use that against them when I say I want 150,000. So they're going to say, well, for 90,000, we expect you to do X, Y, Z. For 125,000, we expect you to do A, B, C. Cool. My expectations are this, based on what you just explained to me. I have a master's degree, which puts me well above the 90,000. I also have operational corporate experience, which puts me well, I might be deficient in something. So yeah, I'm not at the 150 mark, but I'm definitely at the 125 mark because of everything you just explained to me. So the recruiter is almost forced to tell you like how you get the number that you're looking for, that you're trying to get. Is it Matas? Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
You're good. I'm probably about to mispronounce yours. I'm not. uh, hey, Gail, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I got a question because I was initially told the same thing you just said, and I brought that up here at Seven Eagle, and I was told not to do that. So I'm trying to get like a consensus on this. Like, is that actually a thing you should do? Like, hey, what is a $90,000 person worth to you? Because I was told no.
I wouldn't phrase it as what are they worth to you. I would phrase it as what are your
Yeah.
expectations? Like
Okay.
how are the expectations different from the lower end of the pay scale to the upper end of the pay scale? And maybe it's certification or qualification specific, maybe it's scope, maybe it's, whatever it might be. Um, but also read the room. Like if they're already coming in hard at you and they're saying, hey, if it's not even a conversation, they say like this is the salary and you're not happy with that number, then you need to ask a follow-up question like, is there anything else aside from this? Like, what does a total compensation package look like? Hey, you get, 8 hours of vacation every year, or you get, 30 days of vacation every year. Okay, so basically, I'm only working 11 months a year now. So maybe I'm okay taking a little bit less money because for that month I can do whatever I want. Or you have unlimited paid time off, or whatever the case may be, or you're vested in the stock option program, or there's a 20% performance bonus. Every time I hear, every time somebody tells me there's a performance bonus, my next question is, are the guidelines documented for what the performance looks like? How am I being evaluated to determine am I above average and in alignment with that performance bonus, or am I below average? And am I being counseled through the year to tell me how much I can adjust if I should adjust to make sure I meet that? Because obviously I want that 20%. So uh you're gonna have to talk to just read the room is the best way that I can explain to you, right? If people are telling you not to do that, they may have had a bad experience in doing that. So you just got to understand, number one, what is the role you're applying for? How much is it worth fighting for that salary? Because here's I feel like we all get wrapped up around this stuff, and what you have to understand is this: as a civilian, you can tap out anytime, and nobody cares. I can literally quit. I can walk out of this office and just not come back tomorrow, and nobody's gonna care, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if I find myself in a position that I don't want to be in, and with a salary that I'm not happy with, all I'm going to do is teach them a lesson because as I'm working for that company, I'm also applying for other opportunities. And as soon as I get the salary that I'm looking for, I'm gone. There's no loyalty out here. There's no allegiance. There's none of that nonsense that, well, number one, first of all, it wasn't nonsense. That had absolutely had a purpose in the military, but there's not none of that stuff really exists out here in the corporate environment. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the thing that sucks about all of this, it's all please don't take it as like it's black or white, left or right. It's a consideration that you should take as you're preparing to have those conversations.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Jeremy.
Jeremy, go ahead. Jeremiah.
Good morning, Gail. Um, One of the questions I had was pertaining to her salary with my industry. I don't know if other cybersecurity IT folks are experiencing the same thing, but whenever I get a call or whenever I get hit up from a recruiter, whenever they ask me about salary, I tend to ask them like, what's the pay band or, you know, because they're reaching out to me. I haven't really had the time to research that job. And a lot of the times I get there is no set, like I have to put out my own offer. So one thing I do is based on what the position is and what it sounds like, I give like a general, okay, my market value here in this location, this is what I know, this is my research, and I'd give like a band within what I think it would be. That's what I've been going with. I don't know if that's right, but I can't really use your what do you call it, advice for a lot of those situations. And some of those jobs I'd actually really want, but yeah.
So what happens when you give your number? What's the rest
When
of
I
the phone
give my
call sound like?
number, it's maybe it's passive aggressive. I don't know. Maybe it's passive because they don't really say anything about it being bad. They don't say anything about it being good. It's like they're just taking notes, right? And I can't really read from that if, okay, is it something that I can go forward with? Sometimes I get like maybe positive feedback, not on the salary, but on the continuation of the conversation into other questions, into progression of them forwarding me to a hiring manager, right? So then I take that as okay, not too high, so they're gonna forward me. So I don't know.
So number one, I think your approach is really good, right? The fact that you're already accounting for your location, hey, based on where I currently live, I'm in Los Angeles. The average cybersecurity salary for 2025 was $140,000. And based on that, my salary expectations starting would be 140,000. But I'm open to better understand what the total compensation package looks like at your company, as this is one of my top choices with all the other opportunities that I'm currently pursuing at this time. That's how I would
Mhm.
kind of follow up with that conversation, Jeremy. And I'm sorry if I'm
Mhm.
mispronouncing your name, um, but that allows them to you put the ball back in their court and you say, look, I'm eager to be here. I want to be here. And though if they come back with a number that you're not happy with, then you can just end the conversation. While we're on this moment, ADHD just kicked in. If you're given a 45-minute window to speak to the recruiter and that phone call is over in 15 minutes, you've missed an opportunity,
Mhm.
right? And to Brian asked me this question as far as preparation. You 90% of the time, you're going to know the recruiter's name, the company that they work for. You can find plenty of YouTube channels or LinkedIn things. Find something you can pull a thread of commonality. Like, oh, I see you went to the University of Omaha. My father's from Omaha. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, find something that bridge that conversation and to keep it just so transactional between how you're a good fit for the role. But enough about me. Daenerys, please.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Thank you.
Morning, sir. First off, thank you for being here. You actually spoke, I believe you spoke in the course for BC for me back in April, San Antonio. So I have the certification. I have 10 years plus in talent acquisition. I'm interested in BC doing that role, but I don't feel confident because that course was like getting everything through a fire hose. So I don't feel comfortable applying for jobs because honestly, I'm afraid to be like, oh, we like your resume. Come in and let's talk about it. I'm like, I don't know what to say because I don't feel like I've done this, but I'm very interested.
All right. So Daenerys, stop selling yourself short. Now you're in the United States Air Force. You're in HR. So did you ever participate in any I don't know, a wing level exercises in your
Yeah.
capacity, right? And what do we always account for? Loss of personnel, right? Recovery of personnel, accountability. So that's all continuity, right? Hey, here's COA one. This is our main element. Here's supporting effort number one. Here's supporting effort number two. If they breach the wall and we're good, we're gonna what's it, the sequential planning. We're gonna maximize on our, and I'm speaking military shit to you,
Yeah.
but what you gotta go do is go take a whiteboard somewhere and draw all this shit out and be like, how can I say breaching the barrier in a civilian manner, right? Like accomplishing our assigned task or our OKRs. Like that's the same thing. We're having the same conversation, but now you're using terms that they understand. So as
Yes, sir.
far as business continuity, I'm telling you right now, you've been doing it for those 10 years you've been serving in the Air Force, and you sit in one of the better positions outside of operations that you actually understand from the force perspective, like what does it actually take for us to accomplish this based on the level of capabilities we need to complete this mission, right? Resource allocation, that's all you. Finance, budget, that's all. I mean, these are all things. Do you use Google Notebook LM?
No, I do not.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna tell you to do.
Okay.
Now, but honestly, look, this is just Gayle Anders talking, okay? This is not like Netflix or anything. This is not my business. There's a little bit of privacy depending on what you think the big dark web's gonna do to you if they find out about you. What I did is I took all 20 years of my fitness reports. I threw all that shit into Google Notebook LM. And I took all the job descriptions that I wanted to apply for, and I linked them all to that same notebook. I said, I'm struggling to create a resume that articulates all of my infantry experience in the Marine Corps to being a director of a business continuity program for one of the top entertainment companies in the world. Can you draft one? And it'll go through all of that shit. Hey, listen, I thank you so much for this. I literally talk to Gemini like it's my brother, okay? Thank you so much for this. Hey, but there's no qualitative data. Can you look through all of my fitness reports and pull out all the qualitative stuff and like throw that in there in terms that are easily understood by a business continuity recruiter? 30 seconds later, there it is. Right?
Oh, okay.
Don't, but listen, I told somebody this one time, and some cybersecurity dude was like, "Oh my God, you're giving Google attack vectors to like fucking like take your identity." Like, dude, I don't give a shit, man. Like, come get me. Like, I'm good. I don't care. But that's just me, right? Because I don't have whatever. Point is, it's like there is always a security concern when you're putting all your personal information out there, but we don't use socials on our fitness reports. And so my EDA API, it doesn't mean jack unless I'm with TRICARE, right? So there are things you can do to help translate that stuff so that you can have that conversation. Or, hey, I got the call. They want to interview me for business continuity. Here's the last 10K and the last three 8Ks. Here's the company profile, company website. From a continuity perspective, can you tell me what what should I be concerned with? What could I be prepared for this interview? And it'll spit it all out. Like I used to apply to jobs just to keep relevant, to make sure my resume was like, I got a full-time job here. I got plenty of things keeping me busy here. But I would still apply. I would interview. I'd go through the salary negotiations like 3 times a year. And then I got smart on all this AI stuff and I stopped, right? Because I know that if I get let go today, I'm pretty confident I can flip the script really quickly and I could have something meaningful to apply within, the next 12 hours. So I hope that answers your question, Denarius, but don't sell yourself short, because I feel like all of us sell ourselves short with the shit that we have done in the military. It's just a matter of like, you weren't just keying in, you weren't just building the Firewatch roster, right? Yeah, in layman's terms, all of us, we can have that conversation at the bar, like, bro, you wasn't doing shit. You were just building a Firewatch roster. But in reality, when we say this outside, you have to be able to articulate it in a meaningful way. And as you can tell,
Thank
I'm
you.
very animated, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, Denarius, did that answer your question in the chat? Same question?
Yeah, it was the same question. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. Make sure you connect with Gayle if you haven't already, because second time speaking here, just an unbelievable resource for everybody on the call. So make sure you guys connect. So Gayle, everything you just talked about, amazing stuff, awesome stuff. How did you take all of that stuff and get your job with Netflix?
So like I said, I was cold calling everybody, and then I built up the courage to basically ask people that I felt like I got along with. For every 10 conversations I had with people, maybe one or two turn into like a follow-on conversation. Because look, sometimes like I have nothing in common with you. You're from Pennsylvania. I've never even been in Pennsylvania. I have no idea what your life is like. Like I don't know. I'm not gonna get along with everybody, obviously. But for the people who I would get along with, I would start relationships with them. I would eventually ask, "Hey, look, I don't know if this is like dating for the first time, but would you be okay being my mentor?" I felt so weird as a grown ass man asking for a friend. I was just like, I cannot believe this trash. All good. So I found this dude, Scott Baldwin, who was the head of enterprise resilience at Netflix during that cold calling stuff that I was doing on LinkedIn. We built a relationship. He was my mentor. And I would take DoD instructions about continuity of operations and unit succession and things like that. It's all public information, obviously. Like this, you can Google these instructions. It wasn't like anything, obviously. And I would say, like, hey, listen, as I read this, this is how I would explain like what I would do for you at Netflix, or how I would support this same thing at Netflix. What are your thoughts on that? And we just came back and forth sharing this material. And so we came to the conclusion of our relationship. I just basically ran out of questions to ask, so to speak. And he made the biggest mistake ever. He said, "If I can ever help you, let me know." I said, "Well, actually, Scott, you can help me, because I need a company host for this SkillBridge thing that I'm trying to do. Now, it's free labor, and this is literally how I pitched it to him. It's free labor. You ain't got to pay me nothing. I just need to get some OJT on the job training to make sure that this continuity thing is really what I want to do after the Marine Corps. And if there's no opportunities with you, if you have any of your friends who are looking for free labor, I will bust my ass. I will not ask for a job. And all I would ask for is just a reference, if that's even still a thing out here in this world. And he said, "Oh, I'll do one better. I'll bring you on." So he brought me on. I did the skill bridge thing. And as the infantry dude, he was very familiar with who I was. And he was just like, "I'm going to put you over here with the security team." I just want you to sit over there and play nicely. And so I sat over there in my sandbox and played nicely. But then I found the aviation team, I found the safety team, I found the engineering team, I found the marketing team, and I'm just out here like being everybody's best friend, right? Oh, Sarah needs help building what was it? It was like some access control procedure for a data center that Netflix was using. And I said, I don't know what any of that shit means, but I understand force protection. I know anti-terrorism. I know what the anti-terrorism steps are, active and passive security controls, et cetera, et cetera. I sat down with her. I did all this shit, and then I sat down with Scott, and I was like, "Look, man, none of your methodology is documented. Like, there's how do we log our changes? How do we know when decisions were made? Why we pivoted and went left versus right? And so we don't like repeat this thing every 3 years as it always happens. And if you don't document anything." So he said, Gayle, I don't care. I'm not doing that. If you want to document, if you go type, go do whatever you want. So I literally documented our entire methodology as it for the resilience program. And our time came to an end. I picked up a bank at a bank. I picked up a, I picked up a bank at a bank. I picked up a job at a bank for 120K. Remember what I told you at the beginning of this conversation? This is not what I wanted to do. So now I just hate my life for the next 3 years as I go through this, but I got to feed the family. That's where I'm at now. So I left Netflix. Skillbridge ended. Everything was great. Went to the bank. Day 3 of orientation, Scott called me back, and he's like, "Dude, the amount of people calling me and bitching to me about why you're no longer working on their projects is annoying. So what's it
Oh,
going to take for you to come back?" I said, "Well, Scott, I need an offer letter." And I had an offer letter before lunch, and then I walked out and I quit. I quit the bank and came to Netflix that
oh
following Monday.
yeah. Hey, cold calling works.
So how do I simplify that conversation? As a Marine, I was a really good Lance Corporal. Okay, I'm retiring as an EA. I could have beat my chest and had all this pride and thought myself to be like echelon so far up here, blah 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 blah. No, I'm just a dude now. So I want to know about you. I want to know about your family. I want to be social. I want to build this relationship. And then, like, I don't want to, because when I come to you and ask for something, I don't want it to be the first time that we're meeting. It's how I've always approached everything in life. Just be a good dude, and shit will always come to you in karma, right? So that's how I've always lived my life. It helped me get the job here at Netflix. And I'll be honest with you, it's the only reason why I still have this job here.
Yeah, such a good point. Like even as an '05, I know I'm not going to get out and be the president of said company. I have to go in, humble myself. We all do, humble ourselves to start at that, you know, E5, O3, E6, whatever level. And then once we're in, we build ourselves up and do what we do. And it's just amazing. As we get ready to close here, can you tell us what it's like working for Netflix? And can you tell us if Elle lived or died? Little Stranger Thing humor? Anybody? Nothing?
Oh.
Okay. Can you tell what
I
it's
like to
like?
believe that she's alive and she's
Yeah.
in
Can you tell us?
Greenland with her waterfall. I like to believe that, but many believe she's dead.
Can
Uh,
you tell us exactly what you do and what you and what it's like working for Netflix?
Netflix is one of the scariest places on earth because I have my master's degree from AMU, which is a Mickey Mouse University. I don't care what anybody says, right? I got my trash online. I did all my essays when I was on Firewatch, in the field or on deployments, right? I sit with people who are from Berkeley, Yale, Oxford, like very prestigious, respectful PhDs, doctors, data scientists, like wizards in their professions. And I have to have meaningful conversations with them at their level because I never want to ask somebody to come to my level. I would never insult myself that way. So that's what I mean by it's one of the scariest places to work. Imposter syndrome, you'll hear this a lot, right? I live with it every single day. But to me, it is a way of not getting complacent. right? So I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive because I'm always striving to learn what you do and how you do it and how I can add value to the things that you are responsible for. Netflix is an amazing place, number one, because nobody's going to tell you what to do. When I first started here, we got through our pilot program. We got out there, we figured out, we got feedback from our customers, et cetera. And we were confident we had a really good offering and we started to basically scale it out and roll it out and all that good stuff. And one of the things you always hear in continuity, and Daenerys, you'll appreciate this, is leadership engagement. And everybody thinks leadership is like the executive level and it has to come from the CEO. Like the CEO ain't got time to be telling you what to do. The CFO ain't got time to be telling you what to do. The directors at here do not have time to tell you what to do. And it was a godsend because I think it was, I can't remember if it was a VP or a director, but they pulled me aside and said, hey, listen, this is performance feedback. You will not be here very much longer if you keep asking for direction. We hired you to do business continuity. Do business continuity. You tell us what we should care about. You tell us what we need to do because that's why you're here. And if you're not prepared to do that, then step off. I was like, he was some army guy. So I was like, I appreciate you, brother. But that's the feedback I needed. And then all of a sudden, now they're pulling me back. There, because I've had many bosses over the last year because of a lot of different reorgs. Now they got to pull me back, and I'd rather be pulled back than pushed, right? Because if boss got to push you, then you're just not going to be a member there. So, to me, it's an amazing experience. I love being here. It is not the same as Paramount, Sony, Disney. Very different cultures. Very same industry, but very different cultures. Would I work for any of those other companies? Yes, of course, because I got to feed my family. But I would much rather prefer to be here at Netflix.
Awesome. Brother, I appreciate you, man. I know everyone in the room does as well. Again, great stuff. Yeah, man, can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. I'm always open to feedback. So if that was the worst hour of your life, please let me know so I don't make it worse for the next group that I present to. Thank all of you so much, and good luck to all of you.
All right, later.